Hello and welcome back. I'm Mr. Jacobson, and today is a rather auspicious occasion since we will be looking at the Seagull PP-styled iconic limited edition automatic watch. There has been so much buzz about these reissues of classic Seagull watches that I couldn't pass up on a recent opportunity to acquire one. So let's get into it. The watch comes in a blue cardboard box with a paper outer skin. The paper is quite fragile, but the box slips out very easily. As you can see, this is a Seagull watch. It says so right here. Seagull watches are made by the Tianjin watch factory in China, which has been in business since 1955. However, the brand name Seagull wasn't used until 1974. When they started out in 1955, the brand name was called Wu Xing. I was a bit confused when I saw this watch on a local auction site because the seller listed it as a Tianjin Wu Xing Seagull. Since Seagull produces over a quarter of the world's watch movements, there are quite a few brands that use them, so I thought that this was a different brand. However, this watch is sold on Seagull's official site, so it is in fact a Seagull and nothing else. There are several other brands that use Seagull movements, but they are just, watches with the Seagull movement in them and not actual proper Seagull watches. If you want a proper Seagull watch, you need to get a Seagull watch. This is important to consider when you look at QC. Some brands just might not have it. But calling it a Wu Xing is also technically correct, for reasons I will go into later on. Anyway, opening the box grants us access to this piece of paper, which seems to be a copy of some sort of contract. It reads as follows: Letter of Authorization. We hereby would like to issue authorization to Shenzhen Zizai Tao Import and Export Company Limited as our Canadian dealer in the sale of whole series and after-sale service of Seagull watches. This authorization is valid till December 31st, 2019. It is signed Tianjin Seagull Watch Technologies Co. Limited, the 31st of December, 2018. I'm not sure what will happen now that we're in 2020. Next, we have this little styrofoam casing that contains the manual. This manual contains instructions on how to operate every single movement that Seagull produces, which is nice. One manual to rule them all. And then we have the watch itself, complete with tags and plastic around the steel buckle. I want to keep this on for a bit. It looks so nice. Here's a quick first view of the front. And the back. And the genuine leather black strap with some white stitching that is more apparent on the back of it than the front. The entire visible part of the case is polished, whereas the back is slightly brushed. The glass has a slight dome to it. Now, what about the specs? Taken straight from the horse's mouth, i.e. the official site, this watch is 38mm in diameter and 11mm thick. It doesn't list the lug-to-lug length, but after measuring I can reveal that it is 47mm or 0.026 fathoms. The strap width is 20mm, and you have the 3-bar water resistance in case you want to go and scramble your brains underwater, although I wouldn't bring this anywhere near a coral reef. Interesting to note is that with this watch you get sapphire crystal, which is great. The movement is automatic, but it doesn't say precisely what movement is housed in this particular case, but after some research it turns out that this watch has the ST2130. And the question I ask myself is, does it hack? Why yes. Let's just do that again. Oh yes. Yes, it does hack. This watch is a reissue of the company's first ever watch, the Wu Xing, which is why it is technically correct to call this a Wu Xing. And in this case, it is part of a limited run of 1,000 pieces. However, if you look up a picture of the original Wu Xing, never mind. Anyway, the dial is an ivory color, slightly off-white, and in some cases, it gives off a very light, dusty pink quality, depending on the lighting used. The indices are silver, with Arabic numerals alternating between markers. The markers look a bit like arrows pointing in toward the center, which follows the design. You then have some Chinese writing that I cannot decipher, but the writing after 17 should say jewels, because that is the amount of jewels that this movement has. Also, you have a steel star, which further elevates the whole impression of this watch. The date function is at 3 o'clock, and the company specifically states to not change the date manually between 11 p.m. and 3 a.m. in order to not damage the movement. So hands off. The minute and hour hands have this lovely, slim sword shape, and they follow the overall theme of the watch really well. They look sharp, neatly polished, and well machined. Overall, this watch is so impossibly clean and crisp. It brings with it such a feeling of the Orient with just a quick glance. It is precisely what you need, no more and no less. The back of the case shows the model, which is the FKWX in 2017, which is probably when the watch was conceived. It is also numbered out of 1,000, with this one being number 345, making it a true numbered limited edition. There is further artistic writing in the center, but I have no idea what it says. This part of the watch is brushed, and the back case has a dodecagonal shape, 12 sides to the polygon. The strap is black leather with a calfskin grain to it. It is, I can spoil it already, incredibly comfortable. The white stitching on the back is practically invisible on the front, but it still adds slightly to the design, and I quite like it. The movement is automatic, and the rotor in this one doesn't rattle at all. If you put the watch to your ear, you can hear it spin and wind, but it is not noticeable at all with the watch on your wrist. You can hardly feel it. I'm a bit surprised that this watch is much quieter than my Seiko Alpinist. The accuracy is another thing to note. As observed by me currently, it is within 5 seconds per day, which for a watch like this is nothing short of astounding in my book. So what does it look like on a wrist? Here it is on my 19cm, 7.48 inch, 0.009444 furlong, or 0.104 fathom wrist. I haven't tried it with a NATO strap, and currently not inclined to do so because I love the strap so much. This watch is the most comfortable watch I own. It sits perfectly. There is no other word for it. It sits so perfectly flush, and the leather strap and the notches in it, it's like it's tailor-made for my particular wrist. Yeah, I have no words. Since the watch is only 11mm thick, it slips nicely under a shirt cuff. Finally, in this case, we have to discuss money. I'm quite certain that if you've searched for this watch and you've found my little video, you're quite inclined to buy one yourself. So I'm going to be 100% honest here. This watch lists for about $190. However, I managed to get this on a local auction site, practically unused, for $100. I say this because my opinion of this watch could be affected by the very low price that I paid, so I will ask myself instead if I would buy it for full retail. The problem here is that even though the retail is about $190, I have to add customs and import taxes, which would bring it to about $240. For that money, you could get a secondhand Seiko. But given the choice, I would still buy this one, since it has more character. It is limited, so there aren't scores of them lying around. I like limited editions, and particularly numbered ones. I like the thought of someone else in the world with a watch like this, having bought it for the same reasons I have. So yes, I would have needed to wait a bit to save up specifically for this model, because I've had another Seagull model in my sights for a bit too, but I would, eventually, have bought it. Yes. It is difficult to criticize a watch that costs so little, and for this price you really get a lot of watch for your money. If you're looking into an entry-level automatic, I'm hard-pressed to find an alternative. Perhaps Orient brand watches offer the same bang for the buck, but I've never bought or owned one, so I'm not really sure. This watch brings with it pedigree and culture, which is something that is difficult to put a price tag on. To me, watches have to give me an experience when I wear them, a thrill, and this one just ticks all the boxes. I admit that I'm probably a bit biased and over-enthusiastic since I paid so little for it, but if you can find one for the same price I paid, don't hesitate, you won't regret it. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Mr. Jacobson. Have a nice day.